African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, the clouds rolled in just in time to give us a break from the harsh African sun. We're in search of all of South Africa's incredible wildlife. This is Safari Live. Ready?
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Welcome to Windsor Woods, Trantwood and Creeds Elementary for your very own school drive here in the middle of the African bush. Now, I'm looking for leopards, and when I look for leopards, I like to pretend to be a leopard. So I'm standing on top of a termite mound, because if I was a leopard and I was walking through here, I would stop up here and I'd look around and I'd see if there were any animals I could catch for my dinner. But alas, no leopards in sight from up here, so we're going to keep going on a wonderful adventure through the African bush. And remember to ask us as many questions as possible. We're very excited to have you all with us, and hopefully you're going to have some fun. This is much better than a normal school class. So let me know what you think. What do you want to know about lions, leopards, elephants, cheetahs, and all the other things, bugs, spiders, trees, flowers even. We are waiting to hear from you. So we're looking for a female leopard, and her last footprints were coming into this area, so we're just checking very carefully. Hello, Brody. Brody would like to know, does our car have four-wheel drive? Indeed it does, Brody. These are very, very strong 4x4s, and we're able to go into some incredibly difficult places. We've also got really big tires. And as you can see, no windscreen, no roof, so we can see all around us, and so we can spot little creatures like that one. Don't run away, stay. There we go. That is a little antelope called a steenbok. Oh, there she goes. Now that's not a baby, that's a big adult, and it's called a steenbok because of one of its ways it hides from leopards. So steen means brick or rock in Afrikaans, which is a language here, and when a leopard's very close, the steenbok won't run, it'll lie down and it'll keep so still like a rock, so the leopard walks straight past it. So that's one of the ways, but being little, it avoids the big predators, and that's where it gets its name from. It's basically a rock buck or a brick buck. Now, hello Hayden. Hayden wants to know, do we get gazelles here? Hayden, we don't. Gazelles only occur up in East Africa, from Tanzania up to the north. Here we've got lots of different antelope, and we've seen one. Hopefully we can find you a few more while we look for this leopard. We get Impala, kudu, Inyala, bushbuck. What am I missing? What a duiker. What a wildebeest. There we go. I think that's about all of them. Oh, there's an Impala. Oh, let me go forward a little bit. Oh, that's a better one. Now, hello Hayden. There we go, there's an antelope. And you can see that's a boy because he's got horns. Hayden wants to know, why does an antelope have big ears? Well, Hayden, so they can hear all the noises around them to make sure lions and leopards and things like that don't sneak up on them. And you can see how the ears are facing different directions, so it can listen to different places at the same time. It's one of the ways they try to avoid the big cats. Now it's really hot out here today. It's about 32 degrees Celsius, so 83 Fahrenheit. So it is very, very warm. But luckily, as we got going, a big cloud is giving us a little bit of shade. Oh, let's keep moving. Now, you guys are so lucky because there's not just me, and my name is Brent, and on camera with me is VM out here taking you on your own safari. You've got Byron and Jamie as well, but first let's go meet Byron.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Byron, and on camera with me this afternoon is Hat. And it's lovely to have all of you with us. And I've just found some Impala. I know Brent was looking at some Impala too, but it looks like these Impala all have little lambs. There's a few little lambs around here. Let's see if we can see some for you. And let's just have a good look. There we go. Look at that. Look at the beautiful little Impala lambs. And all of them would have been born within the last week or two, literally within the last week, so they're very, very young. Nolan, do you want to know how fast an antelope can run? Now, those Impala aren't quite running away from us, but they're moving through the thicket, and we're probably going to lose them soon. But Nolan, the antelope in this area can run very, very fast, especially these Impala. They, I don't know the exact speed, but it's probably around, let's say, between 40 and 60 miles an hour, somewhere around there. Very, very fast. If they are running at full speed, very, very, very quick and very agile. They can change direction very well. And from a question from Trentwood Elementary, good afternoon to all of you. You want to know, do all antelope have horns? So technically, all the antelope species, yes, they do have horns, but with certain species it might be only the male that has horns and the females don't. With some of the antelope, you might get the males and the females that have horns. And let me show you an example quickly of some. So for example, let's just have a look at, okay, that's a nice one. I'm just trying to see what we get in this area so I can show you. Wildebeest, and then let's look at the Impala. Okay. Alright, so we get wildebeest in this area, and they are part of the antelope species, believe it or not. So I'll just hold that still for you. And the males and the females have horns. And so that's one species of antelope that we get in this area, where the males and the females have horns. And then on this side we have the Impala that we can see, that we've just seen. And the females don't have horns, but the males do. Do you see that? So that's also different. And then there are many other different species of antelope in the area where sometimes the males have horns and the females don't. Now Morgan, you wanted to know, do the Impalas sometimes fight with one another? And they do indeed. It's mainly the males though. The females won't fight with one another, but the males do. And the reason for that is the males will fight to try and be dominant. Unfortunately, those Impala have moved off now. We can't see them anymore, but I was hoping to show you a male. We'll try to look for some at some point again. But the males fight each other when they're trying to be dominant over one another and fight for a little piece of territory, so they can attract females into that area. So they will fight, and that's why they have the horns, is to fight and spar with each other. So they try and show which one is stronger and which one is more dominant than the other one. Alright, let's carry on. So Tyler, most of these antelope only have one baby at a time. They don't give birth to two or more. It's very, very rare that you get twins born. I've never seen it happen before, but usually it's only one little baby or lamb for some of the antelope, like these Impalas. They're called lambs. So it's one lamb per female. And let's have a look. We might have some around the corner. I think I see some Impala. Hold on a second. Ah, there we go. There's another little female with her lamb. Just through there. Look at that. See, so that would be the mother on the left, and that's the little lamb on the right, staying very, very close to the mother, and they're still very vulnerable, which means they have to be careful of predators, and that female will try to look after that little lamb. Isn't that cute? So wonderful. Those long, thin legs, and isn't it amazing how very soon after they are born, they can stand up and start running around already. Oh, that is so cute. Eli, you've asked an interesting question, and you want to know, why do antelope have a white tail? So these impala, you do see it very clearly if they flick their tail around. Let's see if that female does it again. So it's actually just white underneath. Now, Eli, there's some theories to it, but I would say the main theory is that when they are startled, I just want to listen. Sorry, I thought I heard some impala calling behind us. But Eli, anyway, so the tails of these impala, with that very white tuft underneath, if they feel threatened, often what happens, they lift their tails up and you see that white flash very, very clearly, the white tuft under the tail. Now, the reason for that, or the theory, and what people think, it's there so that if they're running away from danger, they can perhaps follow one another to safety. So all the tails will be up, and that white flash will then allow the other impala to follow them perhaps away from danger. And that is one of the theories. It's not really proven, and it's what scientists think and what people who have studied it think, because a lot of the antelope have different white markings or markings on their rump that are able to cause the rest of the herd to perhaps follow one another away from danger and to safety. So that is generally why they have that white tuft. We are going to try and look for some lions and leopards this afternoon. That's going to be our plan. Now, while I do that, we're going to head to Jamie, who's out on her bushwalk this afternoon.
And a very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome on the Sunset Safari, and a very warm welcome to all of our schools that are watching. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon the man holding the camera is Gendre, and we are heading out into the bush on foot to see if we can't help Brent find that leopard that he's been looking for. So we found some very, very fresh tracks, and we're slowly but surely trying to follow them through a dense area to see where she might be hiding. Perhaps on a day like today, with as much wind as that has been blowing, perhaps she might even have managed to catch something. So we're going to see if we can't figure out where she is. But for us on the walk, it's not just about the big animals, it's also about finding some of the small things as well, and talking about some of the smaller things. But before we do that, Jeremy, good afternoon to you. You wanted to know, what do leopards eat? Leopards eat small antelope. So it depends on whether it's a big leopard or a little leopard. If it's a big male leopard, then they can go for much bigger antelope. If it's a small female leopard, then they usually like to target smaller antelope. Something like an impala, perhaps. You might see an impala with Brent or Byron, or something like a duiker or a steenbok. Now, speaking about duiker and steenbok, I want to show you there's evidence here that there are, in fact, these types of antelope out here somewhere in the area that we're in. So this is antelope dung, these tiny, tiny little pellets. Oopsie, dropping some. And the fact that they are as small as they are immediately tells me that it is a tiny antelope, and the fact that they are out in the open like this tell me that they belong to a small antelope called a duiker. Now, Karula, the leopard that we're looking for, she's very, very good at hunting and catching the duiker. But before we go and see if we can find her, I want to just show you something interesting about antelope dung. See how fine, let me try and hold it nice and still for you. See how fine the grass is from where they've been digesting it. And that's because antelope actually end up chewing their food twice. They chew it the first time and then they swallow it. and then they bring it back up again out of their stomach, back into their mouths, which sounds really gross, but actually isn't too bad. They chew it again, and then they swallow it once again. And what that means is that they make sure that that food is really, really well ground up, and that they can digest it really fantastically. And that's in complete contrast to this animal. Now this is very old, but this animal is something very large. And look here, you can actually, it's got lots of sand through it, because this is such old dung that the termites have been living in it. But you can actually see pieces of the grass that this animal was eating, and sticks and twigs and leaves. And this animal is an elephant. And an elephant is not nearly as good as digesting its food as some of the antelope species. Now, it might seem really gross touching the dung, but it's not gross. You must never touch any poo of any animal unless you have been told it's okay by an adult. But because I know what the elephant's eaten, I'm not too worried. Now, Larry, you want to know whether or not we could see an elephant today? We might. It's entirely possible. So all of these animals are completely wild. So it's not like traveling around a zoo and first you go to the elephants and then you go to the lions. Sometimes we have to work and see and try and find them, and these animals can walk long distances. So there might be some elephants around, there might not be. I'll look for some fresh signs, some fresh footprints in the soil, and some fresh dung to see whether or not there are any elephants in the area. But we're going to look for all sorts of exciting things. Now, just off to my left is a waterhole, and actually, I want to show you something. Sorry, we're going to go back onto a road because that's where the track is clearest. But I want to show you why we're going to be very, very careful around this waterhole. And Elena, speaking of waterholes, you wanted to know how big the waterhole is and how many are needed to keep the animals alive. Well, Elena, we've got 2 pumped waterholes around the lodge. In other words, there's a pump that brings water up from underground that gives the animals water, and that's because we've been in such a bad drought. But we've got quite a few. We need lots and lots of big waterholes in order to keep lots of animals with enough water to survive. I'm just looking for this particular animal's tracks. And in fact, there's 2 animals here that we might want to avoid. I want to be very careful when we go across this waterhole. Where's his tracks gone? I'm going to draw them for you, but I saw them earlier and I can see he's gone straight back to his watering hole. There's an animal living in the waterhole that has a giant footprint that looks like this. Sort of. I'm not the best artist in the world, but there is a very big animal with a foot almost that big and 4 toes that at the moment is sheltering from this hot day in the waterhole just a few hundred meters away, and that is a hippopotamus. So that footprint that I've drawn is what a hippopotamus track looks like. We're being very careful around some of the animals at the moment because, we've spoken about the fact that it has been drought season. There's very, very little water left in that pan, in that waterhole. So that poor hippo doesn't have very much space. He doesn't feel very safe. He actually feels a little bit scared about all that's happening and the fact that he doesn't have much water. And because he's scared, we have to be extra careful because hippo can be very dangerous. Now, Eli, while we're here with my very badly drawn hippo track, you want to know how big an elephant track is. Well, of course, it depends on the size of the elephant, but a big male elephant, their track is, let's say this, let me wipe out my hippo track. A big male elephant track is easily this big. And their front tracks are nice and round. So a big elephant track, and I've tried this before, when I see a big male elephant's track, I can actually climb inside of it, not right inside of it, I don't sink down, but I can actually fit. If I curl myself up, I can fit into a big male elephant's tracks. But then you get baby elephants as well. And baby elephants, of course, will have much, much smaller tracks. So a baby elephant's track might only be this big. Now, the nice thing about an elephant track, of course, is that the way that the track is shaped will actually tell you which way the elephant is going. So their back foot, their front foot is nice and round, but their back foot has a point at the end of it. So it's shaped almost like a teardrop. And that point shows you which way the elephant is going. So this elephant would be going that way, if this was a real track, but of course now I am drawing tracks. Now there are lots and lots of different creatures out here, and it sounds like Byron has found one of my favorites to show you.
Look at this, and this is one of Jamie's favorite animals, and I must admit one of mine too, a beautiful warthog. Now some people might laugh at me for calling it beautiful. I'm going to try roll forward a little bit so you can see its face. Let's have a look, hold on. And they are strange looking creatures, the warthogs. And look how interesting this is. Look how it's busy feeding. Can you see it goes down on its knees, on its front knees? So that it can actually get down lower to the ground and eat the grass. The warthogs only eat grass, sometimes little shoots or roots that they dig up with their noses, but they do prefer feeding on the little grass roots and shoots, and that we can see over there. And look at those big tusks. Now this is a big male, and I can tell that just by looking at his face. Can you see he's got 2 warts on the side of his face over there, and 2 on the other side. Now the males have got 4 warts and the females only have 2, so you can tell very easily if it's a male or female just by looking at the face. Look at those big tusks. Now, those big tusks are why the warthog have got those warts, and it's to protect their face when they do fight against one another, especially the males. And again, just like the Impala, they will fight because they want to chase off any competition, any other males that are in their territory. Oh, Tyler, you asked how much do warthogs weigh. So big warthogs, very, very big warthogs, can get up to about 80 or 100 kilograms. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's an 80 kilogram warthog could be about 180 pounds, 180 to 200 pounds. So it's very, very heavy. And some of them can get much bigger than that. But that would be a very big warthog, a very old warthog. One this size, I'm not sure. Maybe about 40 or 50 kilograms, which is probably around 130 pounds, somewhere around there, 140 pounds. Now, Caden, if you have a look closely at this warthog, it doesn't look like it's washed itself in ages. Look at the mud on the body. Can you see that? Now, what these warthogs love to do is they like to roll around in the mud and in the little water holes where there's lots of mud. They prefer doing that, so they don't really wash themselves. They're trying to get a lot of mud on their bodies. And the reason for that is because it protects their skin, helps keep them cool, and it can also help protect them from insects like ticks or flies that sometimes sit on their bodies. So it helps keep those little insects away. So that warthog's actually dirty. He's not very clean. Lexi, I love your question. You want to know why do they have such a big body and such a small tail? I don't know, Lexi. I don't know. Apparently, I'm trying to think. There's an old folk tale about, and a folk tale is a story that was told to children when they were younger. It doesn't mean it was true. And there's an old folk tale that goes on about the warthog and how it got its tail. And I can't remember now which animal it got swapped with, but and it could have been a hippopotamus or something. I can't remember, but the warthog and this other animal, I think it may have been one of the antelope actually that had a much bushier tail, perhaps an Impala. The Impala was meant to get a little tail, and the Warthog was meant to get the big bushy tail, and then they actually got swapped in the line when the tails were being handed out, and they got swapped around, and the Warthog ended up with the little tail, and then Impala got a big bushy tail. But that's just a story. I don't know why it's got such a small tail. Probably because it doesn't need a big tail. And Jaden, the warthogs eat so much grass because that's what they feed on. That's the food that keeps them big and strong. So they have to eat a lot of grass, because you can imagine. Think about us, for example. If we only ate salad, we wouldn't necessarily be very big and strong, would we? We'd have to eat a lot of salad, or we'd have to eat some other food too. So the warthogs, because they only eat grass, they need to eat a lot of it to grow and become big and strong. I'm going to try and move forward a little bit further. This warthog seems very relaxed with us, which is wonderful. Oh, this is such a lovely treat, everyone. Look at him. He's a nice big male. There you can see his face clearly. Vaden, you want to know what family is the warthog part of? And that's a good question, Vaden. They're part of the pig family, actually. So you sometimes get, and I think in America, you get wild boar. This is very similar. It's part of that pig family, the wild pig family. And I wonder if he'll run for us. I don't want to chase him, but there is something interesting that they do when they do run. But he's not worried about us at all, so he's not running. He's just looking for some shade now, it looks like. Let's see if he lies down. Let's just wait a little bit and see if he does decide to lie down, or if he's going to move on. Elia, I think that's how you pronounce your name, Elia. You wanted to know, what would the warthog do if I got very close to it? Well, if I got very close, the warthog would do one of two things. It would most likely choose to run away from me, because I'm a little bit taller, bigger, and it would look like I'm a predator, so the warthog would rather choose to run away. However, if I did threaten it quite a bit and it got a fright, it may decide to charge me, and with those big tusks, look at that, they can do some serious damage to me, so I wouldn't like to test it, because these warthogs are very strong, and if they run at me with those big tusks, they can do some serious damage. And little Riley, you want to know if the boy and girl warthogs have horns? They do indeed, but they're not horns. They are called tusks. So it's actually like a teeth, or like a tooth that the warthogs have. So it's an extension of a tooth, and it's not actually a horn. So now that both male and female have tusks, and the main reason is to protect themselves. And the males also use them obviously when they're fighting against one another. But the main reason is to protect themselves from predators. So if something tries to attack them, they can use those sharp tusks to potentially harm whatever it is that's trying to hunt them or kill them. Oh, what a wonderful sighting. It looks like he's going to walk off now. And really, really so lucky that we got to see him. A really fantastic sighting. We're going to head back to Jamie, who's walking, and see what she has found for us.
Oh, Byron is absolutely absolutely right. We are so lucky to see things like Warthog. Remember how I said that out here on foot, it's one of the best ways for us to see the littler creatures and the littler things out here. And just have a look at this incredible web that you see in front of you. It is a massive, messy spider's web. And I don't want to touch it, I don't want to break it too much. It's very, very sticky. Now, this particular spider's web is known as a funnel web spider. Now, it's not like some of the more dangerous funnel web spiders. I know in certain areas of the world, a funnel web is a very, very venomous spider. This spider isn't terribly dangerous at all. And it's called a funnel web, not because of this messy nest outside, but because it actually makes it, it's very difficult for us to show you, but it actually makes itself a little funnel that goes down towards the ground over there. So there is his funnel. That's where the spider is actually hiding. He's hiding in that little tunnel of silk. Spider silk is the most amazing substance. It's one of the strongest things in the world. If I were to take lots and lots of the spider web all together and I were to make it into a thick strand, maybe as thick as 2 of my fingers combined, if we were to make it, imagine making it into a long rope, that would be strong enough to stop a car and possibly even an aeroplane. That's how strong spider silk really is, and it's amazing that the spiders can make it with their bodies. Now, this particular funnel web lives in his funnel until he hears the sound of something plucking gently on the strings of the web, at which point he will come out, or she will come out, to see and investigate and see what it is. And sometimes you find other little spiders in this web as well, little spiders that are looking for a free meal. They're known as kleptoparasites. In other words, they steal food from other spiders, and sometimes you find them in these webs. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I suppose, for this funnel web spider, it seems as though his home security is good and he doesn't have to worry about any intruders. Right, let's see what other things we can find. Now, Braden, you wanted to know what is the most poisonous spider, and I'm sorry, my leg just went dead. It's gone all pins and needles. Must be in the way that I was crouching. Our most poisonous spider, well, actually, we can't call it poisonous. Poisonous is dangerous. Poison is dangerous when you eat it. Something venomous is venomous when it bites you or it stings you. So a spider's not necessarily poisonous because you could probably eat it. I wouldn't advise it, but you could probably eat it. And a snake's not really poisonous either. But if it bites you or it stings you, then that makes it venomous. And our most venomous spiders are known as the widow spiders. And some of you will be familiar. It's the sort of the cousin of the recluse spider. There's quite a few different types. In our area, our ones don't have the clearest red markings, but they do sometimes on their abdomens in the shape of an hourglass, bright red hourglass. And it's something that you might be familiar with. Perhaps you've heard of recluse spiders. And they're okay. Most of the time, if you get bitten by them, you'll probably be absolutely fine. But you should maybe go to a doctor, especially for young people and for older people. Their venom is slightly more effective. And you start to feel very anxious and very scared, but you go to a doctor and they will be able to treat it just fine. Then we also get a type of spider out here that is called a sack spider. And a sack spider does something different. A sack spider, and I'm looking to see if I can't find you another spider example. A sack spider has what's called cytotoxic venom. So when it bites you, it gets a really nasty infection. Sack spider or a violin spider. And then you've got to go to the doctor and you've got to have some antibiotics, and you've got to make sure that you look after it and keep it really, really clean, because the venom essentially attacks your flesh, it attacks your tissue, and it makes a very, very sore wound. Some of the spiders, of course, like the funnel webs, are on the ground. Missy, you wanted to know why do they make their webs out in the open? Well, it just depends upon the spider that you're talking about. Some of them have massive webs that stretch across a whole load of trees and branches, whilst others have nests and spider webs that are completely hidden. So what I'm looking for, Missy, is I'm looking for a nice piece of fallen bark, and I don't think I see any. But let's try. We're going to try and have to creep through here for a second. So everybody squeeze in behind me. I'm going to try and... Can you squeeze through here, Jandre? No. We might... Jandre's got to duck under. And then we're going to come through here. And let's see if we can't find a nice spider web for you, Missy, hidden away under a log. No, no spiders hiding there. Now, Ricardo, you wanted to know whether or not all of the spiders lay eggs. Yes, they do. All of the spiders will lay eggs. They lay eggs in different places, much like some spiders have their webs out in the open and some are hidden beneath logs. Absolutely, they will lay eggs in different places. And we're seeing a lot of mysterious eggs that we don't necessarily know what they are. Reptile eggs. I saw some bird eggs earlier. Spider eggs are generally hidden away beneath the folds of trees. Hold on a second, I want to just try and show you something. Where did you go? I just saw you. No, that's ridiculous. I promise you I just saw this creature. I just saw something called a velvet ant, but now all I can see is real ants. And the velvet ant is hidden. Huh. I wanted to show it to you. What a pity. Now, Dylan, you want to know what is the biggest spider in our area. I'll look and see if I can't find you the tunnel of a baboon spider. A baboon spider is the South African equivalent of a tarantula. So a baboon spider is a spider that can get almost as big as my hand. Big, hairy spider. They're my favorite spiders. I find them fascinating. They're not dangerous to people at all, but a baboon spider is the size of my hand. So that's how big they are. That's our biggest spider. And you get different types of them. I wish I could find you that velvet ant, but it's disappeared. But instead, we can perhaps talk about this fascinating little thing. Now this might just look like it is a hole in the ground, and it's not. It is a home of a very interesting creature, and it's a home of a creature called an antlion. The reason an antlion is called an antlion is because it is much sort of the size of a very large ant, but it's called a lion because it's got these sharp, sharp jaws that are capable of catching and grabbing ants. And what they do is they dig themselves down. Ooh, careful, ant. That little ant nearly ran in there. They dig themselves into these little pits. And then, when an ant comes and crawls along the edges, just the lightest touch. When an ant crawls along the edges, they disturb the soil and they start to fall. So imagine an ant slipping down into the center of this pit, and as soon as the ant falls down into the center of the pit, the antlion bursts out and grabs it and then pulls it down and eats it. So that's called an antlion larvae, and when it's big, when it's fully grown, it'll grow up into a massive, almost like a dragonfly, a really, really beautiful dragonfly. But that can take, for some antlions, that can take up to 12 years that they can live in these little pits until they are ready to turn into an antlion. Now, Carson, you wanted to know how many different types of venomous spiders there are in Africa. Carson, there are the black widow, the brown widow, the sack spider, and the violent spider, and the crab spider, and the, did I say violent spider? I did say violent spider. So there's 5 of them that are incredibly important in terms of you need to go and see a doctor if you get bitten by them. There are other types of spiders that are venomous, but it doesn't really affect you in any way. So it affects their prey because their prey is small, but for humans it's not dangerous at all. So there's lots of different types of venomous spiders, but there's only really 5 or 6 that are very dangerous to people. Not even very dangerous to people. And that's only if you don't treat them well. This is a good one. This is a nice pit here, nice antlion pit here. Now, Samantha, I'm just going to see if I can't show you at least it digging out the sand, so I can prove to you that there's something living in here. Samantha, you wanted to know what forms of defense spiders have. One of their big defense mechanisms is a lot of them are very, very camouflaged. Oh, he doesn't want to play with us this afternoon. He doesn't want to show himself. So a lot of the spiders are beautifully hidden. They're colored like bark, or else they live deep beneath the surface of the soil, perhaps only coming out at night, hiding under the surface of leaves, hiding away, sheltered by their web. They've got lots of defense mechanisms. Most of them don't really fight back. If they're being attacked, they try and run away. And some of them are very, very quick. You even get spiders like a jumping spider that suddenly jumps out of the way and moves from place to place by jumping. What other defense? The only spider that will fight by biting is a baboon spider. So while we go off in search of spiders, scorpions, and other such things, Brent's got the right idea on this hot afternoon. Let's go and see what's happening at the waterhole.
Well, we're way down in the eastern side of our traverse area, and we've come up across a small herd of buffalo that are coming down to drink. They're still looking incredibly skinny. We've just gone through the worst drought in 100 years, but they'll be very happy to quench their thirst on this hot day, and hopefully there'll be a bit more rain soon and the grass will get a bit better for them. See those massive horns? That's a male. And then not so massive horns on a female. Not too many of them. Sometimes we get herds of up to 600, but with the drought they've seemed to have split into smaller groups. Probably about 30 here. Now Reagan's wondering, do we see any birds in this area? We see lots of birds, Reagan, and there's even a bird that lives on the buffalo, on the far right buffalo of him, in the middle of his back. Oh, there it flew off. He's going to go have a drink. There we go, there's some more. Those are called oxpeckers, Reagan, and they eat ticks. And there's another bird called a blacksmith lapwing. He likes to live around the water, and he eats little aquatic insects. Now, quite often when buffalo approach water, they can be quite nervous, because over the last couple of months, with it being so dry, the lions have been waiting for them around water holes. So always pays to be careful when coming for a drink, because you never know. Oh, them, the oxpeckers are bathing up on the inlet there. Oh, look at that. Even the birds are cooling off. It's so hot. He's having a nice bath. Now, Michael's wondering, are there any alligators that might eat the buffalo or the birds? Well, no, they're not in this particular pan, but they could be at a different time. So we don't get alligators, we get crocodiles, and they do move from waterhole to waterhole. At the moment, I'd say this is too little water for a crocodile, but if we get more rain, and then the crocodile might move back here. Now Missy's wondering, do the buffalo go all the way into the water? Yes, Missy, sometimes they do. I've even seen buffalo swim and go all completely under the water. There's not much water here, so I don't think they're going to do that today. And at the moment they're more worried about finding good grass. So they'll drink a little bit and then they'll move off to try go find some grazing. Now, even though they look like cows, they're not that closely related to cows at all. And they're separate species completely. Nate would like to know how many types of buffalo in the area. Only one, Nate. Sorry, we've just got a strange noise coming from our car all of a sudden. Do you hear that, Vim? What is that? Okay, well, it's stopped now. Well, Nat, you only get one kind of buffalo here. It's called the Cape buffalo. Further up in Africa, you get forest buffalo, but those are the only two buffalo species we get in Africa. Lydia's wondering, are there any other fish or other animals in that waterhole? There will be lots of little insects, Lydia. At the moment, probably no fish. Oh, look at that buffalo having a scratch, trying to get rid of all the ticks and fleas and biting insects and arachnids that are on them. And you can see how polished that log is. That's not the first time a buffalo has had a scratch on that log. Now, they will have favorite scratching spots near water holes, and you won't be the only animal that will use it. You'll probably find that elephants might use it, as well as maybe even rhino. Garrett would like to know why the horns are in the shape of a moustache. Well, it's a very good design if you have to fight. So those hooked horns facing forward with the big thick area in the middle, that gives them protection if they bash their heads together while they fight for girlfriends. And it's also very good at keeping lions away. Jaden, you are 100% correct. The birds that we saw on the back of those buffalo, they eat ticks off the buffalo, as well as other parasites. Now, Clark's wondering what happens if we disturb the buffalo or get too close. Normally, Clark, they'll just run away, but we don't want to disturb them. As you can see, they're not looking very healthy. They're still very skinny from not having enough food over this dry season. It was very, very dry, so they're slowly recovering. We don't want to disturb the animals ever, but sometimes they can chase you or get aggressive if you do disturb them, especially when they're ill or sick or hungry like these ones are. Here we go. Now, the buffalo are going to move off. I got a report of a male leopard in this area, so we're going to keep looking. But Jasmine says, do the buffalo stay in a group? And normally they do. They stay in herds. As I said, you can get herds of up to 600 in this area. There are only about 30 or so in that one. But and the only time they really get split from their groups or their herds is when they get chased by lions. Now, they might move herds or change groups when two groups converge, but that's normal. But they try to stay together because it's much safer in a big group than by yourself, because the lions will get you. Okay, so we got a report that this male leopard moved into this bush around here, and this particular male leopard likes to sit in trees quite a lot, especially when it's hot. So we're just going to go very slowly. We're going to keep checking up high. Maybe we'll spot him snoozing in a tree. Wouldn't that be fun? Now, of course, we're looking for leopards, we looked at some buffalo, but there are some incredibly beautiful birds around here as well, and there's one, Vim. Have you got him? There we go. Here we go. That is a European bee-eater. Now, he likes to eat bees and wasps and things with stings. But how he does that is he catches them, but before he eats them, he beats them up on a branch so they can't hurt him. And he travels a long way. So he's one of the migrant species. So he comes all the way from Europe, from France and Spain, and he travels many thousands of miles to come and feed on all the insects in our summer month here. Let's see if we can... Oh, off he goes. Ooh, VM spotted something. Now VM spotted something we don't see too often. It's called a slender mongoose. It's one of the predatory mongoose. I'm going to try and get... I didn't see it, so I'm just going to move forward a little bit. Where do you think he is, VMP? Right behind these bushes. It might be a squirrel. Well, let's hope it's not a squirrel. Let's hope it's a mongoose. Oh, there he is, there he is. It is a mongoose. Spotted VM. Oh, that's so cool. They normally run away very quickly, just like that. Oh, well done, VM. Great spot. Isn't that awesome? Now, these are really good little hunters. Eat lots of different things, like the things Jamie was looking for, spiders and scorpions. But it's been wonderful. Windsor Woods, Creeds and Trantwood Elementary. Great to have you on the back of the Game Drive vehicle with us. Hopefully you'll be joining us again soon. But from myself, Byron, Jamie and the whole Safari Live team, bye!
And look at this, everyone. We've managed to find one of the big Nkuhuma males. Big coalition that patrol through this entire territory. And this is one of the males that I think the same male Jamie had this morning. It doesn't look as if he's moved too far from where she had him. He has moved into the shade a bit. And he's panting very heavily because it is so hot. And he's very clever. He's the only one that's got shade at the moment. We're out in the open. But I don't think this lion is going to move anytime soon. If anything, he may just try and move further into the shade. And that's exactly what he's doing. That's exactly what he's doing there. He's just moved a little bit further into the shade. But I don't think he's going to get up and move anytime soon. I mean, I could be wrong, but it looks like he preferably stay in the shade there. I mean, the interesting thing is there's lovely shade just behind him. If you have a look around this area, there's some lovely shade under those trees off to the left. But he's being a bit stubborn, it appears. He's staying in that little area where he is. I don't think we're going to stay with this lion for too long. I'll tell you why. Is because it is very warm and I don't think he's going to move. If anything, I think he'll possibly just try and move into the shade around here. Let's see if he does get up. He's changing positions a little bit, but it doesn't look like he's really interested. I mean, who knows? You never know. You never know, because these animals always do exactly what they want. There's no telling what they're going to do. But it's so great to see one of these big males. I'm thinking that our plan should probably be to carry on and see what else we can find in this area on Arathusa this afternoon. And while we are in this area, we'll possibly come back later and see what this male gets up to. Maybe get him when he decides to wake up and possibly roar. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Yeah, it's very, very warm. So I think, why don't we head out of this area and continue on and see what we can find. Maybe go and check some of the water holes or dams in this area. Because it's so hot, perhaps we're fortunate and we get some animals going down to drink. That would be great. Let's just see. Hang on, there we go. Let's see if he does decide to move into shade. Or is he just changing positions? Just changing positions. That's a very, very hot lion. And there he goes. All right, I think that's what we're going to do now. We are going to move on. And Tanis, you'd like to see a European roller and you'd ask if we can find you one. I will do my best. Let's see, and while we're driving around, we'll definitely do some birding. what a wonderful sighting of that male, though. At least we know where he is for later. Okay, I'm going to head out of this area and head towards some water holes. Let's head back to Jamie on her walk and see what she's got up to.
That is something that we think is a possibility in terms of Karula moving around, that perhaps she might be doing as well, going to have a drink perhaps around Gallagher-Pan. So Rexon finally managed to find where her tracks crossed over the road, although apparently it was very, very difficult to see, and she's made her way in that direction, and that's about as accurate as we can get. I don't know if this is going to work. I want to show you, no, there's grasshopper that doesn't want to be seen. Okay, well, one of the things I wanted to show you was what we term pans, and I know that Steph has discussed these at great length before. Now, unfortunately, they've all completely, or most of them, have dried up. Treehouse Dam, Buffelshoek Dam, these are the only places really that have any water left. But this wallow would actually have been made by the animals themselves. So it would have started out as a little depression in the earth, a little bit of a seep line with the water moving towards Treehouse Dam, started off as a puddle, and then a warthog. And I'm looking to see if I can find you warthog tracks. A warthog would have come along and had a jolly good mud wallow, and it would have got slightly bigger, and then a big buffalo bull would have come and flopped down into it and made it even bigger, and then elephants would have come and started excavating and digging and splashing in the water, and that in turn would have created this relatively large sized pan that we've got here. And in a typical rainy season, this would be full. This would be full right up to this sort of level, and we've seen these pans full before. And this would actually be a place to try and avoid when you're on walk. Not necessarily avoid, just be very careful as you approach it, because it would be the sort of place that a buffalo would absolutely love to be wallowing in. Buffalo spend a great deal, particularly the big old male buffaloes. That's why they're called Dugger boys, mud boys. They spend most of their summer afternoons wallowing in patches exactly like this. So it's why it's so nice to get to know a different area, so that you can actually get a chance to see all of these areas. Now, Jay, you want to know if the rains doesn't come, or if the rains don't come, and all of the buffalo died, would buffalo come from the other parts of the reserve? It's unlikely that all of the buffalo would die. If we're in a situation where a couple of thousands of buffalo have died, we're in a really, really serious situation. I suppose it's possible, but then it's not just going to be the buffalo, it's going to be all sorts of other things. So chances are not all of the buffalo will die, even if the rains don't come initially. What they'll do is they'll probably disperse to areas where there has been better rain. But yes, the animals can and do. Go away, flies. There are so many biting flies around us. The animals can and do move between areas, and they move where the food is better, where there's been a little bit more rain. The buffalo up to the north of us, in the north of Kruger, have had much better time of things. They were actually they weren't. I don't know how things are now, but a month or two ago, they weren't having nearly as difficult a time of it as our buffalo were. There's one thing I've noticed recently. I actually don't even know when I last saw a buffalo. Chandra, when last did you see a buffalo? Saw 4 Dugger boys last night, apparently. I did not. I have not seen a buffalo in a long time. We're slowly but surely making our way through this vegetation, just in case we happen to encounter Karula. She might have caught and killed something during the course of the day. The one thing that we have to our advantage is the heat of this afternoon. So on a day like today, although leopards are funny things, a big cat like a lion, not going to really do anything when it's this hot. A leopard, on the other hand, we've seen even Tingana has moved through an area when it's 40 degrees centigrade, so over 100 Fahrenheit. So it's difficult to judge exactly what the animals are going to do. Sorry, I've been attracted by these shards of what was almost certainly a giant land snail shell that has been stomped on. Tony, you want to know if the ground gets hot like beach sand here? Yes, it does. And on a day like today, look, it's not the hottest day we've had in a while, but it does feel as though the earth is sort of exuding this massive heat. And absolutely, the sand, particularly the redder sands, get very, very hot underfoot. And of course, ow! Sorry, I resented that bite. I'm not even sure I got it after all of that sound and fuss. In terms of walking around, we walk around barefoot all the time, and we find ourselves with very, very hot feet. So yes, the ground does get hot, like beach sand. This massive termite mound. It's amazing to think of just how many years and years and years the termites took to build it. It is phenomenally big. Right. Apparently, in case you're wondering what's happening with the other vehicles, they are struggling with comms and signal right now. So you're on the bushwalk with us for now, and we will see what we can find you. I'm just checking all of the hollows of these trees. I might have been a little bit too bold in my approach though, because generally little reptiles and skinks, something that might live in these hollows, or snakes, might live in here. They probably would have moved off at the due to the rapid nature of my approach. Oh, that's interesting. First of all, a whole load of flies came out. It's not often we get to see is this a marula seed? Looks odd. It doesn't actually look like a marula seed. Obviously it looks, that's the squirrel eating inside of it, and we see this all the time with our marula seeds. But the shape of this is just ever so slightly off. Maybe it wasn't a ripe one. It has to be a marula seed though, because there are a whole load of them on the ground. But it's interesting, we don't often get to see this casing around the edge of it. It must be a marula seed. So what happens is the squirrels come with their long sort of sharp teeth, and they break open get into the center or the kernel of these marula seeds, and they get to obviously the very nutritious sort of food storage system that a seed has. And just hold on one moment, I'm just going to check and see. You hear hooves. Could well be a Nyala or Impala. Let me know if you see a large buffalo behind me. Otherwise I think we're okay. That's a more typical marulus. That would be more like what we are used to seeing. You can see it's completely without the peel, without the husk around the seed. Sorry, there's a biting fly behind my knee. Sorry, Chandra, I know you were trying to. But it was crawling at the back of my knee. It was the worst, most ticklish spot possible. I'm going to take this. Now all of these marula seeds concentrated at the base of what is not a marula tree. This is not a marula tree. You can see immediately from the bark. And it looks like it's a monkey thorn. So it's a monkey thorn tree, not a marula tree. So what does that tell us? The fact that we've got a whole load of marula seeds gathered underneath a monkey thorn tree tells us that there is a squirrel living somewhere in this tree. This is a squirrel's food cache that they've had at the bottom of the tree here. They don't obviously collect food for winter in the same way that squirrels in European areas might do, because they don't hibernate. But they will they will actually gather food below the level of their trees. I'm trying to see, you can usually, must be the marula it came from. Yep, this is the marula tree that these marula seeds would have come from, and they would have been carried there by a squirrel. And there you go, one mystery solved. On to the next. In the meantime, while we go and search for more mysteries to unfold and uncover, let's go across to Byron, who is on Arathusa.
And we are busy driving around, having a look for some birds and any animal activity, but it's very, very warm at the moment. Oh, a little steenbok. Let's see if it stops. Straight ahead. No. Very, very shy, very, very shy. And I understand Jamie was being attacked by little biting flies, and it's so funny because Jamie asked me the other day why the flies were biting me so much, because a few times in a sighting I was getting bitten by these little flies. It's quite sore. So I do feel sorry for Jamie. Speaking of bites, I've got itchy, very itchy tick bites from all the walking too. Oh, it's not fun. We haven't seen too many other animals around at the moment in this area, but it's too soon to panic. Always have a look around and see what we can find. Oh, is there, what bird is up there? Is it a grey go-away bird? Looks like it. It is indeed trying to hide from us. Well, trying to hide from the heat, actually, not from us. Oh, look at that, a beautiful grey go-away bird. I wonder if it's going to call for us. Trying to hold on in the wind and then also stay in the shade because of the heat. You could see it was sitting with its beak open earlier, and that's how some of these birds try to stay cool. There, it's doing it now. It's got its beak open, and it's known as gular flutter. So they've got a gular flap inside the mouth, and what happens is with the wind blowing over and through the beak, it helps cool the body down. Isn't that interesting? Now they've got that wonderful call, and gray, gray, gray. That's the sound of the grey go-away bird, I think. Not very good at it, but grey go-away bird. Oh, that's lovely. Wasn't that fantastic? Nice to see that bird. And I know we are looking for a European roller. That would be nice. Nothing just yet. It's nice when you do stop and you just scan around for a little bit. Have a look if you can't see any birds or interesting little sorry everyone, I made a bit of a mistake earlier. Seeing the Nkuhuma pride all the time, I called the male lion that we just saw, I said he was one of the Nkuhuma males. He's the father of the Nkuhuma cubs, but he's not an Nkuhuma male. He's one of the Birmingham males, and some of our viewers have said it was in Tinyo that we saw over there. Oh, what little bird is that? Oh, it's gone. That's the trouble with birding while you're driving around, is a lot of these little birds move around very, very quickly, and it's tough to keep up with them. So one of the Birmingham males. Oh, there's a Magpie Shrike. Let's see if we can have a look at that. There we go. Also it's just up at the top of that tree now. Can you see that cat? Right back, there we go. Balancing, using that tail to balance. They are beautiful, beautiful birds. The Magpie Shrike. Beautiful black and white with that long tail. Also sitting with its beak open. Let's see if it turns its head again. There, do you see that? Again, trying to stay cool. See how many bird species do it. It's very, very interesting. Here's another little bird about to cross the road. Just off to the left, a little crested Francolin. Two of them. Just off to the side, sorry, in the little thicket, there's two or three. There's one, there we go. And there's another one just to the left of that. There we go. the Crested Francolin. Crested spurfowl, I think is the name that it's currently got. No, it's actually still called the Francolin. I get a bit confused sometimes with some of these Francolins and spurfowls, which names changed and which stayed the same. So this is still a Francolin, a Crested Francolin. Beautiful little ground birds. And we also saw the Coqui Francolin this morning, which was really nice. There's a little Francolin that we don't always see. So nice to see these Crested Francolins around. They do generally make quite a noise. It's very peaceful sitting watching these birds forage for little seeds and that in the scrub. It's actually coming out across the road. But look, also beak open, trying to cool down, doing that gula flutter. Very interesting behavior from the birds. It's nice to see this different behavior from all the bird species. And just shows you how hot it is out here at the moment. And how the animals adapt to keeping cool. Well, let's see what other birds we can find around here. And I'm hoping again, still if we can try find some elephant this afternoon, that would be wonderful. I do miss the elephant. I haven't seen him for, and I keep saying this, but I haven't seen elephant for about a week. So hopefully we get to see some elephant soon. Oh, there's a very pungent smell in the air. It's, oh, strong. Is there a carcass here somewhere? There must be. There we go. There's one off to the left. That's what smells like that. Another buffalo carcass in there. Plenty of buffalo carcasses around, and we know that because I think the main reason is because of the drought. It really did affect these buffalo quite a bit. So I just got a big whiff of the smell. Oh, look at, oh, beautiful butterfly. Beautiful butterfly just flew past us. Unfortunately couldn't show it to you. It was a citrus swallowtail. Anyway, let's continue our search for elephant. That's our plan this afternoon. We'll try to find some elephant, and while I do that, let's head back to Brent and get an update from him.
Well, we're still continuing our search for quarantine, checking in all the tall trees. I've come to a high point here where I can use my binoculars and just scan, hoping to see a tail or a leg hanging out of a big marula or jackalberry tree. We're right in the sort of northeastern corner. We're going to check down towards the Kruger boundary now. But so far, no luck. He could just be sleeping flat somewhere in those thickets around that drainage line. And with this heat today, that friendly cloud went over us, so now we're back in the sunshine. It's unlikely that he's going to move too much. I just want to check. There's that lovely little section below Buff Pan on the little river system there. It's got lovely trees, shade, some cool sand possibly. But other than that and those very skinny buffalo, we have seen absolutely nothing down here. Now, if we don't get rain soon, I mean, this grass is being burnt by the sun. You can see it's losing color and dying already. And I tell you what, there's not much shade for us out here either. Now, I'm thinking if I'm quarantined, I'm going to be looking for shade. Deep, dark, wonderful shade. So that's why we're checking around the little river systems, those bigger trees, and a better chance of having a good bit of shade to snooze in. I can't get hold of the guys from Nkoro and to find out exactly where he crossed and what time. I will keep trying though. Okay. There we go. So we have just arrived down here. Now, let's have a look here. There's big termite mounds, jackalberry trees. If you're a leopard, this is a good spot. There's a lovely little bend in the river here that's got lots of shade, and the sand should have been protected from the heat of the day, the sun for the majority of the day, so it could be quite cool. A good spot to have a snooze. Oh, he's not there though. Has he crossed into Kruger? I don't think so. We haven't seen any tracks or sign of him heading towards Kruger. Well, we're on the boundary now. Let's just have a quick squiz, and this is another good spot. Nice big termite mound, lots of shade. There's a little bit of water. It was a little bit of water. It's all dried up. So, oh, not here. Okay, let's head back towards Buff Pan. Now, quarantines are very big for a young male leopard of his age, and he's been showing some very interesting behavior in his he's almost pushing Shivambalan, his older half-brother, out into the Kruger and taking over his territory. Now, of course, he's still a threat to Nkanyeni's cub, or cubs. I'm not sure how many she's got at the moment. I think she's still got 2. And I thought I heard a squirrel, but it wasn't. And so it's very interesting. Now, being so big, he can possibly, I mean, he is not possibly, he is definitely challenging for an area at a much younger age, and I'm quite happy because I really do love that leopard, and it'll be wonderful to see him more regularly down here on Cheetah Plains. But first things first, let's try to find him today. Remember, we're on a completely live interactive safari in the middle of the African bush, and you can ask us questions by using the hashtag SafariLive or use the email address questions@WildEarthTV. Now, we're going to have one last little dabble through towards Buff Pan, which is now Buff Dam. I think it's going to be quite beautiful once it fills up with rainwater, as they've dug it out quite deep and created some islands, so it could become quite a special little spot. Hello Espen. Espen would like to know what kind of fish live in the reserve. Well, up here where we're not on any permanent rivers, generally the most common is the sharp-toothed catfish, and they actually are able to walk over land. So, and if water dries out, you can actually find them walking through the middle of the bush. I normally do it at night when it's quite cool. So okay, so there, and then also tilapia are indigenous to this area. And then once you get onto the permanent rivers that are flowing, you get yellowfish, which is a type of barb, and lots of little catlets, lebeos, and even small tigerfish in the Sabi and the Sand River. Okay, so he crossed somewhere around here. Now we've checked all the nice big trees, and there's no sign of him snoozing in there. I'm wondering if he hasn't just snuck back to one of his favourite haunts, the 3 in a row pan. So while we're gonna make our way back towards there, and maybe we'll find him there. That would be lovely. I really, really hope we find him. I absolutely adore spending time with that leopard. It's also one of my favorite leopards to photograph. And Vim, one of your favorite to film?
Yeah, I dig quarantine.
Yeah, Vim digs quarantine. Now we all do. And one of the leopards I got to spend a lot of time with when I first started at Safari Live. Him and his brother Kunyuma, who was my favorite, but don't tell quarantine, Mr. Snarly Face. But he seems to be quite happily settled down south in Londolozi at the moment. Okay, so from the information, he could have crossed anywhere where we're driving now. Now he could have just gone flat in one of these areas, but I can't see the tracks. There's been a big tractor down here doing road maintenance. So I think we're going to check Owl's Nest Road back towards 3 in a row pan. Okay, well, we keep checking for the normally relatively easy to find but being tricky today, Mr. Quarantine. Jamie has got a creeping and crawling and maybe even a hairy thing to show you.
I really do hope that Brent manages to see Quarantine. He is definitely one of the most beautiful leopards that we see out here. In the meantime, Genre and myself have found something, I suppose, beautiful in their own right, but definitely an answer to the mystery that I've been pondering over the last few days. Now, while I've been walking, one of the things, of course, that you notice more clearly when you're on foot than when you are on a vehicle is the damage that has been done to various species of trees. Sorry, it was a pugnacious ant. It was a Bernie bite. Luckily my caterpillar stayed on. Now one's bitten me. I didn't squash it though, so it shouldn't get the rest of them to attack me. What was I doing to you, you horrible thing? Moving on. So there we have the answer to what's been eating our silver cluster leaf. And looking at this tree, they are absolutely everywhere. I wish they ate ants. They're absolutely everywhere. And what they're doing is they've finished off almost all of the leaves of this tree. And they're now all jettisoning off in different directions. And they are crawling all about the bottom. I've got to be so careful, Genre and myself, where we step. Oh, this one's lost his nerve. One of them did just jump off that end. Well, not jump. I'm not sure caterpillars really jump. It was more of a fall down onto the ground. But the more I look, the more I see of them. They're absolutely everywhere. This one's slowly but surely making his way along. I've got a friend here that I've collected, so now the mystery is just which caterpillar is it? And why are they targeting the silver cluster leaves? Where have they hatched from? It's very common for us to see caterpillar explosions in... Here he goes, coming to you. Oops. He's on the ground now. We won't step on him. Watch out, Genre. We'll jump over him and away, and I'll show you some of the other caterpillars. Very common to see caterpillars of one species all emerging in one go. So you see processionary moths, you see all sorts of things, and what they're doing, let me find you a good example, that's actually probably the best example, is they have actually almost completely devoured this tree. Sorry, trying to hold it still. One of them didn't make it. You can just see the husk of the exoskeleton. Oh, there's a huge one there. Hold on. I'll get it. There. Absolutely enormous one. Stretched right out. So I'm not sure which butterfly or moth that these are going to turn into. My guess would be a butterfly, not a moth, but you never know. Moth caterpillars can be just as brightly coloured as butterfly caterpillars can, which makes sense. All brightly coloured caterpillars are that way for a reason. In this case, I think it's more camouflage than anything else. They've tried to make them look like something else. Nature's tried to make them look like something else. I'm going to let it go now. Spring back up. It's not really, to me, it's not quite aposmetic colouring. Ants, this is now getting ridiculous. Between my toes as well. And what we've got here is a whole collection of caterpillar, what's it called again? Frass. It keeps going out of my head. Caterpillar frass. And it's completely scattered around this area. So there we go, in between the rocks and the dirt of the sand, there's tiny little pellets of a caterpillar excrement, known as caterpillar frass, and it's spread out all around the base of this tree. So there's a huge amount of caterpillars, and when I say they're everywhere, they're everywhere. There's one here, there's a whole load along here. They're absolutely everywhere. I'm going to go and find out, I think, what particular species of, well, not I think, I am going to find out what particular species they come from, because they've almost completely devoured this tree. They really have. I mean, the silver cluster leaves in some areas have thick, luscious crowns at the moment. And James Dungan, you wanted to know, what do they pupate into? Oh, here's a little one. What do they pupate into? James, I'm not sure. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to try and work it out. There's a whole load of them. Sorry, Jandre, I'm just having a look here. I'm fascinated by how many there are on this trunk. I'm trying to work it out. I will have to go and look it up. I don't know each and every caterpillar. I'm not sure whether any of the guides know. I'm going to guess butterfly, but it could be a moth as well. It could be a moth species, and some of them really do look like as though they're about to pupate in the not too distant future. So it's going to be some sort of moth or butterfly. The question is which one. I'm definitely going to be trying to find out, because they have seriously affected many of the silver cluster leaf trees that I've been seeing over the last few days. And it's clearly something that's very seasonal. Hold on. Oh no, he's gone into a hole. I was going to show you a variable skink, which is a type of, oops, careful, reptile. Like a landmine here at the moment, dodging these little guys, all scooting along. Bill, you wanted to know whether or not we use any kind of insect repellent, and I just want to try and double check and see if we can see any more of them on the other silver cluster leaf trees. Highly mobile, Jandre. Highly mobile. Highly mobile caterpillar. We do use mosquito repellent or mosquito spray, some of us, in different ways, shapes and forms, and in the different brands of them, just in terms of trying to at least protect ourselves from having our knuckles ravaged in the middle of the night, or our feet or our ankles at the dinner table. I don't see any on here. And sometimes when I'm walking, if I'm thinking about it, I'll put some on because it seems to help with the ticks. But we don't tend to use all that much. We've got a lot of mosquitoes around at the moment. Lot. More mosquitoes than I think I've ever seen in my entire life at one time. There are so many mosquitoes. And there's no caterpillars on here. Are there any other silver cluster leaves close by? No. Fascinating. It's going to be very interesting to find out exactly what that particular caterpillar turns into, and whether or not the adults are as beautiful as the caterpillars themselves. So a lot of caterpillars take on a very aposematic colouring. The bright darks, yellows, reds, blacks, things to warn, to say don't eat me, I'm dangerous. Or they go the opposite approach, which is to try and camouflage themselves. And there's something called a processionary moth that we don't see here but are so sweet. They all walk together, they're little hairy caterpillars, and they all crawl together in a procession, hence the name processionary moth, with the head of the bottom of the front one and the head of the next one directly in line. So they look like a stick on the road. Well, that's the idea, that they look like a stick on the road. I'm not sure that birds are fooled. Birds with their incredible eyesight, I doubt, would be too bothered by that. But there's different approaches by different caterpillars. As we go off in search of all wonderful things, I'm sure you're very excited to hear how Brent's quarantine search has gone. Let's head over to him to find out.